Hello, relatives. This is Dr. H. I am speaking to you from a lovely hotel room in downtown Los Angeles for this week's Schlagbite for October 12th, entitled Dizzy in the Labyrinth. Daedalus was a Greek mythological architect who created the first labyrinth. He built it for King Minos of Crete to imprison the Minotaur, which was a half-man, half-bull. Every year, Minos sent 7 young men and 7 young women as fodder to pay tribute to the beast. When Daedalus finished the labyrinth, he built it so cunningly that he could barely find his way out himself. The symbol of the labyrinth maze has been recorded since prehistoric times. Originally, it was seen in ancient times as serving to trap bad spirits. The full flowering of labyrinths came during the Middle Ages, when the great cathedrals of Europe each had one, and they symbolized the difficult path to enlightenment and salvation. Nowadays, labyrinths are used as adjuncts to achieve a meditative state. Walking the labyrinth is a contemplative experience, and it's intended to help you look at where it is you are and where it is that you're going. I visited one of the oldest labyrinths at the Duomo di Siena when I visited Tuscany recently. We were in the town of Roccadorcia, a beautiful picture postcard Tuscan town with the red-tiled roofs and the steep hills and ripe vineyards, wonderful food and wine. I was teaching and participating in an intimate week-long retreat with Austrian CEOs and trainers. We stayed at the Hotel San Simeone, and it came with its own 800-year-old church attached to it. The church still held a yearly mass, but mostly it was unused. The acoustics were astounding. The residents made just ordinary conversation sound like Gregorian chanting, and it was musty and dark and cobwebbed. It was eerily magical. I fell in love with the place, so I conducted in that place my entire teaching day. One night, the Church of San Simeone was transformed into a labyrinth. The design was laid out on the floor by hundreds of candles. When I entered the sanctuary, it was illuminated only by that flickering candlelight. I got so dizzy that I had to sit down. I'd been dizzy for a week. All those takeoffs and landings left me with some fluid in my middle ear, which accentuated my already existing balance problems. But the stroboscopic candlelight was so disorienting that I couldn't stand and walk unless I held on to the walls. So I loved the idea of walking the labyrinth, but now I was pretty sure I couldn't pull it off. I watched my friend's 8-year-old son demonstrate the way through. He did it in less than 2 minutes. My ego wanted to do it. I mean, maybe it needed to do it. If I could only get up and acclimatize myself to the lights, maybe I could manage it slowly. So I waited a good 10 minutes before I approached the entrance. And when I stood directly in front of it, I saw really how narrow the path was, and I couldn't walk with my ordinary gait. I mean, to stay balanced, I had to advance my one foot at a time and then drag the other foot up behind it, and that's the way I made it down the first row. And by the time I got to the end, I was sweating so profusely I had to take my shirt off. There was no way out. I had to walk, crawl, or be dragged out. And at that moment, I understood completely why it is that I was here. And I said to myself, I know that I am less stable than I once was. But if I can find a way to walk out and still feel good about going through it in this shaky way, I do it. So I tamed my ego and spread out my arms and Swaying like a tall pine in the wind, I made it through in 20 minutes. So I want to say thank you. Tunkashla, Great Spirit, Grandfather, Grandmother Earth, Rabbanu Shalom, thank you for helping me see new beginnings in the old endings. And I say this for all my relations. Mitakwiyasi. Let me add as a postscript, for those of you who are interested in the workshop, I'm doing one with a talented yoga instructress on the 23rd of October called Sweat and Soul. The instructor, a talented yogini, happens to be my daughter. Going to be an interesting coffee house type experience. Check it out on my website on the homepage. There's a direct link. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.